Welcome back to Summer Reading List, the podcast where we take a look at your favorite,
or maybe your least favorite,
required reading books. I'm Rena Lavrosia.
And I'm Monica Birch. And on today's episode, we are going to be covering the middle school fan favorite, The Lightning Thief,
Yay.
by Riordan.
Woo.
That got squished a little bit, but it's okay. It's okay.
One of our personal favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting
Absolute
to do this finally.
favorite.
We have a lot of decor for anybody who is watching our video that we'll post on YouTube for all you audio listeners. We have pretty much all the books that Percy appears in, whether or not he's the main focus of the series.
Yeah, the Greek series.
Yes, so.
Because I will say, not to nerd out, he is in a few of like the Egyptian ones.
Yeah,
but it's like
actually
one sentence.
The Kane Chronicles.
Yeah, the Kane Chronicles. So.
Okay. Anyways, so we have pretty much all the books after the first one, which this first book is the only one that I've ever seen like on a required reading list for like middle schoolers, which like obviously that's the same with a lot of series. You know,
we just decided to show you all of them.
We also have a few of Percy's favorite snacks and beverages here. We have blue chocolate chip cookies and we have blue lemonade. Yeah. So cheers.
Because you know, we're going to camp, as you can tell by our outfits. Listeners, we're wearing Camp Half-Blood shirts. Beautiful and gulp from Marie.
This might turn into an ASMR moment. We're eating some cookies, drinking some lemonade.
Normal camp food.
Yes, so I'm so sorry if that comes across and you're really disgusted by that.
But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Like you said, we really loved this book when we were younger, so we'll talk, as usual, about the history first and describe...
Yeah, like our personal history.
Yeah, our personal history, not the books.
Well, we will talk about that too, but... Not
after.
Okay, so do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I was not that into reading up until like middle school, and then I read a few of like the middle grade cool books to read at the time. One was Twilight, I will admit that. So I was like kind of getting into books.
Yeah, we were in middle school right at the height of
the height of Twilight.
Like when the movie came out, we were in middle school.
Yeah,
so.
Like it was coming out, so we had to make sure and read them all and like go crazy. So that's our lives.
Yes.
Same with Percy Jackson. The 5th book came out, I want to say, while I was in like 7th or 8th grade. So it was definitely like a thing at the time as well. But when I was in, again, 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember, maybe in between, I don't know. I was in Idaho visiting my uncle who lives there. And I guess I was just like a bored middle schooler, not really enjoying the nature like I should have been. So my aunt gave me the Percy Jackson book because she knew I was starting to like reading and I liked Greek mythology. I was weird about it already for some reason. And I loved it. I read the first 4 on the trip because that's all she had within like the week. And then we immediately came home from Idaho and bought the 5th book. And that's why you see like the original cover art here.
Yeah, so we actually we figured out this weird conspiracy with the covers of the original Percy Jackson series, and I don't know if anybody knows about this and could give us clarity on it, but like the original art from like the first, I guess, publishing of the books of the novels,
all those,
they have different cover art than what you can buy currently.
Yeah,
and it's not like they still even print these. Like these are just out of print anymore. So I wonder if there's some kind of issue with the artist, or they would just want it to be limited edition. I don't know. Let us know. It's very difficult to find like this original cover now. I actually have the first one in a soft cover, so it's like all beat up, but it is the original like arena with Percy like in the ocean.
I did not know that, so like I feel like I'm not gonna try to read out of this one too much more. You know, I love it because it's already like fraying on the sides.
I mean, it's okay. Books
are
meant to be read.
Vibe, but anyways,
but yeah.
Stains
so
on it.
If anybody knows about that, let us know.
But yeah, so loved that in middle school, and I feel like that sort of led me. Because like I said, I was getting into books, but wasn't super into them until I read this, and I was way too into this, and it kind of made me read more books and really like English, and then I got an English major and thought about being an English teacher, so you could say it was because of Percy Jackson.
You could say it was a slippery slope.
It was, it was a slippery slope. As nerdy as it sounds, yeah, so but, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so for me, I did read the book when I was in 6th grade, which...
Probably around the same time, actually.
Yeah.
Because
I'm older than you, so you would be in 5th grade.
I switched our years.
It's
so
okay.
2 years before I read it.
Yeah, so I was in 6th grade, And the reason that I vividly remember this being like on a reading list is because when I was in 6th grade, the school we went to still had homerooms. And so you would have like a shorter class like in the morning. And my homeroom was the same teacher I had for English as well. And so she had like standard and honors English. And I remember for the standard English, they had Percy Jackson. And so they had those like in the room. So then during homeroom, I just read it. And yeah, then the rest is history. I was obsessed, like you said. I remember being like extra feeling like a kinship with it because like being in 6th grade and then reading it, and Percy was in 6th grade, and you're like, wow, that's just like me. And I feel like maybe we talked about this kind of like with The Giver as well, like saying that we had like better, like obviously we can go into it and we can find different things now, but it's never the same as like when you're actually reading a young adult novel like as a young adult. Like, we're never going to be able to have that same insight again, which I think is really interesting. But, I don't know. Like, I just remember, like, feeling really attached to it just because I was like, oh, that is, like, us just... What if we were demigods?
Maybe we are. Just kidding. It doesn't help that we live in Florida and go to the beach, so we were like, oh my god,
we were
Poseidon.
obsessed. Yeah, we were like, yeah, Poseidon.
We love the ocean.
Although now I would be like, maybe Hades.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd be.
I mean, like, a mix, but then you wouldn't be a demigod.
I feel like I lean towards Demeter. But like, if you see me gardening, I like get icked out by anything. So I don't know. I feel like I would be more Poseidon.
I mean, a lot of this is based on aesthetics. Like, we would not be in battle.
I think in reality, I'd want Poseidon, but like, I don't know. So
yeah. So obviously,
none of this mattered at all. It's like us being like, what demigod would we be? Tell us in the comments.
Tell us who your demigod parent would be. Yeah, let us know.
I think I did take the quiz and I got Poseidon.
Yeah, I was gonna say we definitely took the quiz and. Yeah, okay. So that's previous past experience. We're very attached to this book. We read it in middle school, which is like when most kids read it because it is like aimed towards like that age group.
Should we talk about when we got this book signed right now?
Oh, yeah, sure, because we're about to talk about the author anyways. Okay, yeah,
and
so...
just thinking of, like, middle school kids.
And that was only, like, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, like, right before the pandemic.
Yeah, so when the 4th book in the Apollo series came out, which is the 3rd series that has Percy Jackson in it.
He's just not a narrator.
He's just not,
It's his world.
Yes. So we actually got to go to... There was like a presentation.
It's like the book tours is what it's called. The book tour. He does like an explanation of it, does a Q&A.
So like we got to go see Rick Riordan talk, and he talked about the novel and then also about like some upcoming projects, which we're gonna also dive into like in his history here in a second. It was really cool. He answered like some questions that, we didn't know that this was gonna happen.
This is the funny part.
So it was at a high school auditorium, which, makes sense. And we were obviously the oldest people there without children, for sure.
Which we didn't expect.
Yeah, I guess we thought more people would be.
Okay, because his original fans are not like original, age. Like there's just like when the books came out, it's our age.
Yeah.
And when you go online, there's a lot of people who still read them who were like the Apollo series just ended like this
there's
last
like
year.
A few famous internet famous artists who like famously draw like all the characters from like the novels.
So he has a huge following that's our age. Like it's normal. Not that we're like intense about it, but so when we bought the tickets, we were like, oh yeah, of course other like young adults would want to go and see him.
Like we thought there was going to be a healthy mix.
It wasn't.
It was not. It was many.
There were a few. Like if you looked at the crowd for long enough, you'd see a couple like in their late 20s just kind of sitting there also hiding down like we were just like creeping.
Yeah. So, and I pretty much like wore the same identical outfit as like a middle schooler there, like with her mom. Shirt. Yeah, so I was wearing the Camp Half-Blood shirt and I wore it like black jeans, like tucked in Converse because I wanted to be like, I'm a Camp Half-Blood. And I literally went into the bathroom and then there was like a middle school girl who was like the smallest child I'd ever seen and she was wearing the same outfit as me. And then her mom was like, oh my god, twins! And I was like, okay.
I want to throw up.
Yeah, this is sad for me.
But it was fun. We got free signed books. We have 2 of them, so Marina has one at home as well.
So we have our copy of the signed Apollo book, which was really cool.
It was worth it, but it was hilarious.
And I realized I never came back to my point about the questions he was answering, but it was like kids from the high school got to ask questions ahead of time, like to be submitted, and then like if they liked them, they picked it. So in like nobody that didn't go to that high school got to do that, which I think is kind of rude.
I know, I was sad. I was ready to
because we had like some questions actually ready.
I was gonna straight up ask him if he needed an assistant because trying to get into that job field, but whatever.
But yeah, it was really cool. It was really fun.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's just fun to like see people who like write the stories that you like to read or mean a lot to you, like talk in person.
I will say it was kind of adorable though, seeing all the kids there who were like so excited. You're like, oh, that was me like a million years ago.
And you understand like why it's so popular.
And the parents were happy their kids were like not doing bad things in middle school. They're going to like a book signing.
Yeah. So. I mean, us, like, look how we ended up.
Nerdy. I did love one of the questions was like, why don't you have a female narrator?
Oh,
he got called out. Now he does. Funny. His new upcoming book is like Jules Verne's like great granddaughter or something like that.
Yeah, it's Daughter of the Sea or something like that. Yeah.
Which makes me think it's like a great thing. But
it sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
But
he got called out.
So he still writes some books, but I guess do you want to just talk about first before I talk about the new company, like of how he made this series, like Percy Jackson, and what's inspired by?
So he was a middle school teacher. I saw he taught American history, and he actually for many years also taught Greek mythology. So he already just knew a lot of Greek mythology. And you want me to tell like his son's story?
Yeah.
So the way that Percy was invented was actually his son always asked for bedtime stories of Greek myths that he could think of. So his dad was always telling him different Greek myths off the top of his head that he knew. And one day, like, that he asked, he had ran out of myths. He told them all, so he had to come up with one on the spot. And in the moment, and at the time, his son was actually getting tested in school for ADHD and dyslexia because he was having a few problems with learning. Sometimes people say his son does have it. We don't know. On his official website, it says he was in the testing process still.
Yeah, I think when he talked, like when we went to go see him, he mentioned that he does.
My son does, but yeah. So I guess at the time his son was just getting really frustrated about like, this stuff's annoying, why don't I understand it? And so he made a demigod like his son, and that his son could see, who had ADHD and dyslexia, and was kind of really creative on how those things make sense within the world. And I saw he actually got the idea because he used to make his students in his ancient Greek class, they had a writing prompt that was like, create your own hero. So he's like, I'm gonna do my own prompt. And he said within 3 nights, he told his son the entire story, and his son was like, you should write that down. So he did.
Yeah. So
pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's how Percy Jackson came to be, and the whole idea that all the demigods like have like dyslexia or like ADHD. Which is like pretty cool. I want to say like that wasn't something probably super big at least.
No, because I think the only other big middle grade books was like Harry Potter. They didn't really they were just wizards.
Like Twilight, nobody, there was nothing that like you could, I guess, technically relate to as like a regular student. But like I think it's pretty cool that if you were a kid, like especially in middle school, which is like such a formative time, that like kids probably do struggle with things like undiagnosed like ADHD or dyslexia or something like that. It's cool that in the book that's like actually a plus, like it's something that gives them their powers of being like demigods, like that helps them read. It's
like not just like Greek. Neutral, it's positive,
and like the ADHD keeps them like well versed in battle,
because they know what's going on around them. But I just saw too, he talked about like as a teacher, that's one of the things he always liked to do is think of like how to have inclusion, which I know if you get in like the Percy Jackson world, then there's discussion of does he do it right, but that's a discussion maybe for another time. Yeah. With the lost heroes. But I think he that was one of his things, was to always try to see how he can include people. So that's why he thought of that. And that's why there's a few other things that happen throughout the book that we're not going to talk about because they're from other books and I don't want to do spoilers for someone.
Right. So hopefully if this is your first intro to that, you can read the rest of these. So many pages of stories.
So many. So they're actually not as bad as you think, because since they're middle grade, you go through them super fast.
You could read them pretty quick. If you're our age listening to this, if you're middle school listening to this, hello.
Don't feel bad that we just said that.
Yeah. This is like normal middle school reading, so. And you could probably read them pretty quick also.
Just depends,
Yeah.
I've been reading way too many. Like, I literally had the issue where we read this, and I've already started rereading at least the originals, but then I also, like, skipped around in some of the Lost Hero ones. Yeah. Is that what they're called? Am I blanking? Yeah, it is. So, I didn't reread the Apollos because I just read them. And
yeah. And I will say also, like, as a shout out to like when we're talking about dyslexia and stuff, also audiobooks. And I know I talk about audiobooks probably like every podcast, but again, great tool, especially if you want to read like a series and you're like, well, I don't really have time. Like you can literally put it on while you're like driving, while you're doing chores, working out, literally anything. And you can get through the series pretty quick. And
I will say one more thing, because again, I was reading his website a lot. I've always been annoyed when people try to like gatekeep Greek mythology and stuff, because they're like, well, this is the original story.
Yeah, people do that a lot.
And he actually said on his website, like, what do you mean the original story? We don't know the original story.
Right.
There's so many different iterations, like, it doesn't, like, pick which one works best for you. Right. So I really liked that, because I get so frustrated, like, the Medusa conversations online, like, well, she was born like that. Oh, well, no, this happened, or this happens. Like, just, it's made up. Like,
yeah. It's all made up, and
at least the stuff we know is made up.
Especially, like, honestly, Percy Jackson is, like, fan fiction of Greek mythology. Yeah. It's, like, the best way I can, like, put that into terms that people would understand. But, like, all of those characters are already there. Like, if you just look at them as, like, characters, like, you can do whatever you want with them. And there's been so many iterations of that. Like, Disney's Hercules, those are completely, like, different characters. Like, that's not what any of the gods are like or whatever. But it's still a fun time. People know who those gods are because they have, like, identifying traits that, like... So you can pull those across to different stories, and then they can be completely different, and I think that's fine.
Well, you just made me laugh, because one of the questions people asked was, like, do you read your fan fiction? And he said no. Just because it feels weird having other people write the characters that are in his head. So my mind was like, do you think Ovid's upset? I think I said his name wrong, but, like, the Roman who rewrote the Medusa story, I'm like, do you think he cares somewhere that, like, we've all rewritten his story since then?
1 billion times. Yeah. I'm gonna say it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. I'm just, like, picturing, like, him, like...
I know.
Because we're in Greek myth, like, picturing
especially because I'm just, like, a big believer in, like, stories. Yes, they belong to an author, and, like, that's their vision, they put it into the world, but I'm a very strong believer in that the readers also own the story in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's half the fun, though, is, like, you'll come up with an interpretation and they're like, I don't know, but that's cool.
That's cool. Exactly, yeah.
There was one more thing. I just saw it on your screen, and then I blanked on it.
I mean, I can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead, and if I remember it, I'll talk
about it. So what else I wanted to talk about that has to do with Riordan is something really cool that actually is recent-ish. If you count 2016 as recent, in my head, that seems recent.
It was last year for us.
Okay, so in September of 2016, Disney actually announced a new, like publishing branch, I guess.
An imprint.
Yeah, an imprint, yeah. I think I wrote that down.
You did.
Oh, yeah. So.
But I also know what an imprint is.
So the imprint is called Riordan Presents, and that's like, he actually curates, like, and chooses authors to write stories that are about other mythologies, which is really cool. Yeah. So I guess originally, like, he'd been approached, like, to make this a few times, and I guess it was just originally supposed to be for his own books. So I guess writing more novels, which seems like a pretty big workload. So he was kind of, like, working with the idea for a while, according to his assistant, I believe. And they were saying that he wanted to make, like, a platform for other people to share their stories.
Which I think is better that he did that.
I think it's, once he started writing, like, the Kane Chronicles and stuff, I think people loved that idea of, like, mythology so much that they kept asking him to write more stories in other mythologies. So then that idea he had was, like, to have other people who are, like, actually...
more invested from those cultures.
Like, living... like, living in that world where that is, like, the mythology they grew up with.
Yeah. Even some, it's, like, still the common religion, because, I mean, it did, like, Hinduism, and it's, like, that's not mythology
which
currently.
Is pretty cool. And so, there's a whole bunch of them. I think there is, 8 series and 2 standalone novels under the imprint, which is really cool. There's, like, a whole bunch of different ones. I think there's, like, Mayan mythology. So I don't know, there's a lot of cool ones. I need to go back and look at them. They'd be interesting honestly
to go see.
I know there's, like, so many different cultures that he's gotten, so it's pretty cool.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and so we get to hear stories from people who like that's actually their stories.
Yeah.
And I think that was the whole reason that he didn't want to keep writing them, because it didn't feel like it was his story to tell, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. The thing I was gonna say that I remembered, people always try to get me to read nonfiction self-help books, and I absolutely don't want to. And he explained it so well on his website that was like, people just want to escape reality. And I was like, that's literally how I feel. Like, I already work and have life. I don't want to read more books about telling me how to live my life. Just let me escape. Give me my escapism, like, in a healthy way. Let me read my middle grade fantasy book and leave me alone. I say that as like we read other fantasy books, but currently let me read my middle grade fantasy books.
But so that's pretty cool. He's still doing that today. He also has like he doesn't personally have a social media presence anymore. I believe it's his wife that kind of like responds to things now online. So you can still find him like, and it's an active account. And they let you know about all these new novels coming out, and it's pretty cool. So I would say go follow, go check him out, look at his website. Like Monica said, there's tons of like cool, interesting tidbits on there as well,
because he's aware a lot of his fans are younger, so there's a lot of interactive stuff too, which is fun for the adults. I think a lot of people forget adults like interactive stuff too.
Yes. Okay, so should we just go ahead and go into the plot?
Yep. And we're gonna laugh a little bit, I feel like, because when we were preparing these notes, we usually try to go with like 5 plot points that are really
like 5 or 6.
And then we do tend to branch off a little, but we don't tell you the whole story still. Both of us like separately wrote the notes, and we were like, we're writing the whole novel again.
Yeah. Like it took me 5 points just to get through like the first 2 chapters.
Yeah.
And this is like a much shorter book, you know, like there's not as much content
the
as
text
like
is bigger.
Other ones we've done. So it's interesting that we're taking, obviously you can see our bias that we really love this book.
It was kind of, I think I was saying to Marina earlier, it's hard because like when it's your first time reading a book you haven't read in a while, you're able to pick on what's important. Where for us, we're like, well, this feels important and this feels important. And because it's a series, something that isn't important in the moment is like, well, I know this is going to come back in like book 12. So like it's going to be in the last Apollo series, they say it. So
okay.
So we're going to try.
So we're going to try and get through the plot as quick as possible.
Fair warning.
We might branch off and talk about fun stuff, but that's what we do on this podcast. So.
That's the point. You tell us what you think is fun. We'll talk about what we think are fun.
Exactly.
So.
Okay.
I actually will say, this isn't even in our notes, I love and have always loved how this book opens, where he addresses the reader. Like, straight up, like, if you think you're a demigod, stop reading. And I feel like as a kid, I was like, what if I do read this and like something happens? But it's like, no, this is a fiction.
I know. I love that too, because it does feel very like, obviously it's very like typical YA novel that it does that, where it's like, ugh, like you want to know how I got here. It's like very much the record like scratch, like oh
yep, that's me.
Yeah, like very much that, which I love.
Yeah. And I'll explain why it feels like that too, actually, when we break down some more stuff. Because, like, a lot of what I broke down has to do with his mechanics of writing, and that's a good example of it, but we'll talk about that later. So, yeah it starts cute.
So, yes, very cute opening. And so we kind of open to Percy explaining himself, just like introducing himself, I guess, to the reader. And that he is at a school for troubled kids.
Yeah, I couldn't think of how to. It was either like kids who've been expelled a lot, rich kids who should have been expelled.
Because it was like a private school, but the way that they worded it, it's like.
It was definitely like, you are not getting accepted to other schools because you've like caused mayhem.
And so he lets us know that he's been kicked out of every school he's been to, like ever. Like he lasts 1 school year at every school he's been to. So since this is 6th grade, this is like his 6th school or something like that. And he doesn't really have like long-term friends, and this is the first school where he has like a really good friend named Grover. I read on the website that that's because of Sesame Street. He just likes that name because of the Sesame Street character. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cute, and I love that.
So not that there's like a comparison, but that he's like, I guess I just like Sesame Street. So anyways.
Okay. But
that's basically it though, with like the school, you just know he gets in fights. I thought an interesting thing that I forgot too is I didn't realize how mad he gets. Because I feel like I don't know why I picture like the doofy Percy that you see a lot online, but it like starts out with like, sometimes I just black out from anger, and I'm like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
Which makes me think of, ironically, Logan Lerman and Perks Being a Wallflower when he gets in a fight and he blacks out. But anyways,
fantastic movie.
Meant for him.
Yes. Okay, so at this school, he has one friend named Grover. He doesn't care about anything except for his Greek class, pretty much, which
Latin.
is his Greek class, same.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not, but like...
Yeah, so they learn Latin, but they also learn a little bit about, like, Greek
They
myths.
learn all the history.
Yeah. And what is his fake name that he goes by?
I think it's Mr. Brunner. Brunner. I wrote Burner, but I knew it was wrong as I wrote it.
Okay. Yes. So, and
again, I'm picturing the movie version of him, like... Oh, sorry.
Don't picture anything about the movie, ever. Never say that again. But, okay, you know so he has a teacher, Mr. Brunner, who he likes, and that's the only class that Percy enjoys. And so he tells us a little bit about that, and he lets us know they're going on a field trip. So we get to this field trip, and do you want to
at the Met
talk to a little bit about that?
Which, could you imagine your like regular field trips to the Met?
People in New York are laughing at us so hard.
I know they are. They're like, haha. Ours is the beach though, so like, F you.
What? We've never been on a field trip to the beach.
We can go to the beach.
Oh.
I've done like beach cleanups.
Okay, to be fair, in 5th grade and in 8th grade, I did get to go to Epcot. So
yeah, we got to go to Disney.
We go to Disney, bitches.
SeaWorld, don't come at us. We didn't pick it.
In 2nd grade, I went to SeaWorld. Yeah.
7th grade.
My
too.
7th grade got canceled
swine
because of
flu.
swine. Oh my god! Wouldn't 7th grade me laugh so hard at the thought that you would close a theme park over something like a pandemic? Isn't that crazy? It wasn't even a pandemic. It was just
anyways
a flu outbreak. Anyways.
Yeah, so they couldn't go to SeaWorld. I got to go to SeaWorld. And then yeah, with band, shut up. I got to go to Universal.
Oh yeah.
So suck it, New York. Sorry. My sorority went to Universal too, Halloween Horror Nights. I'm just gonna keep throwing stuff out there.
Just be like, yeah, we live in Central Florida. What about
it? We live where you vacation.
Stop.
I hate that so much. I hate it too.
Anyways, that's just us being jealous of trips of Met.
Anyways, I would have loved to go to the Met as a field trip. Love that we said field trip at the same time. And while there, his teacher, who'd always been kind of mean to him, confronts him.
Yes.
Percy.
Mrs. Dodge.
I was gonna quote the movie, but like, where is it? I couldn't do it because I was laughing. Where's the lightning bolt? She doesn't say that though. She says, where is it? Which is that, okay, we're not gonna get into the movie, but like...
We will kind of later.
We will later, but like, I'm trying not to right now.
Yes.
She doesn't ask for the lightning bolt in the movie, which is important. Or in the book. She doesn't ask for the lightning bolt. That's important.
Where is it?
Yeah.
And he's like, what the heck?
So she turns into something, and I think you should say it because I will mispronounce it.
A fury.
A fury.
Not a furry.
I keep saying a furry.
Really close to being a
furry. Into a furry.
Yes. So
she's a fury. Sorry. I swear to God, I'm gonna quote the movie on accident the whole time.
Oh my God.
He's giving me the
now he'll never listen to our podcast because he hates
we
the
don't
movie.
Like the movies, I promise you.
Yeah.
I mean, we do in like the hateful way where we're like, I guess we'll watch it because there's nothing else.
Right. Yes.
But
okay.
Anyway.
So
I'm like quoting it. I'm not actually quoting it.
Freaks out because obviously he's like, what is this creature before me that used to be my math teacher?
Like,
and so then Mr. Brunner comes and he's like, here you go, Percy, and he throws him a pen.
We don't have a pen.
Oh, we didn't put a pen on the table.
Pretend we're holding a pen.
Anyways, throws him a pen and Percy is like, cool, what do I do with this? And then he's like, uncap it, bro. And then he uncaps it and it turns into a sword.
Woo! Like Marina's earrings.
Yes. So it turns into a weapon that he uses.
It immediately kills her.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
like literally he just like taps her and she disappears.
Yeah.
Well, not disappears, but she
turns to dust. And then when Percy turns around, see, I keep wanting to compare it to the movie, but I'm not going to. No one's there. It's as if nothing happened.
Right. And he's like, did anybody see that? Anybody? And then everybody's acting like nothing ever happened.
But Grover is a bad liar.
Yes. Grover's like, what are you talking about, bro? And then Percy's
sweating.
Like, So Percy decides not to keep pressing it, even though it's bothering him a lot.
Yeah, he knows. Also, this isn't even in our notes. He accidentally pushes the bully into water without touching her.
Yes.
Suddenly he's angry and she falls into the fountain.
He gets furious. Like a fury. And then suddenly he has like one of those blackout moments and he's like, what? I never touched her. How come she's in the fountain of water? What?
Yeah, so that's one of those moments where you're like, oh, what's happening?
Foreshadowing.
But we know. It's very obvious. especially when they cover.
Yes.
Anyways, so basically they don't really show us the rest of the school year. Oh, he gets a new teacher and everyone acts like
right. They act like that's the same math teacher, even though he was like, no, I killed the other one.
Yeah, it's like I stabbed her. But no. So the rest of the semester goes on. It's summer. Yeah, it's summer. And like the day before exams, he eavesdrops on Mr. Brunner and Grover talking about how much danger he's going to be in.
Yes.
Which is like ironic because the more danger he knows he's in, the more danger he is in. So because he eavesdropped on that conversation, he got more
self-aware.
Danger. Yeah, he's more
dangy.
Dangy? I've never heard that one. So I just thought it's not an interesting point that matters to bring up, but it's important to me because it's like, oh, okay, so this is his first like notice of them actually. Also, that's the first time he hears them finally admit
that what
Fury
happened,
was there.
Happened, yeah.
But they didn't know he was eavesdropping. Maybe they did, but we don't know that.
No, yeah, I think they didn't because when he brings up to Grover, he's like, what?
Yeah, we're definitely going through everything.
But then so Percy kind of I was gonna say Percy and Grover talk.
Yeah.
And then Grover's like, oh, well, let me, like, come with you, to go home. And Percy's like, oh, okay, you seem, like, pretty protective, especially since after he overheard. And then he starts trying to, like, question Grover. And then Grover's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You remember that? And so, like, Grover kind of cracks a little bit. So Percy knows what's going on, kind of. But he doesn't know, like,
he gives him, like, a business card that says, like, can't have blood. And he's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, he's like, I'm protecting you, Percy. And then he's like, well, I don't know what that means. Kind of weird. So,
bro, you're scared of everything.
So they are on a bus to go back home because Percy lives in, is it Manhattan?
I think he lives in Manhattan.
Yes. So the apartment is in Manhattan, I believe.
Which, like, how realistic is that? But anyways.
Maybe for when he first started thinking about writing this, it was slightly more realistic.
Maybe Gabe makes more money than we think.
Maybe sometimes he wins poker money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
But yeah.
And they pay for private school? Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she's a single mom who works in a candy store.
I mean, in the beginning, she's not a single mom, but I doubt he's helping with the. Yeah, he's probably not helping with the funds.
Yeah, there's no child support payments coming through with golden drachmas.
No, but like even Gabe, I doubt wants to. Oh, but you're right. Thank you.
But yeah. Anyways. So he's trying to go back home. They're on a bus, and then once they get off to get onto the next bus, Grover's like, "Okay, stay here. I'm gonna use the bathroom, and then we'll go back home together." And he ditches Grover. He feels kind of bad, but he's like, "Hey, he was freaking me out, so I just want to go home and see my mom." He gives us backstory on like his mom. His mom and Percy are very close. Her name is Sally Jackson. They're very close because Percy is an only child. She raised him like all by herself, and even though he has all these problems with school, he says like she is very supportive of him. She knows like what he's really like, and that it's not, that he's not some crazy kid.
Yeah. So here's the thing, to digress a little bit. I find Sally's description to be interesting because like I did the math in my head, unless I'm doing it wrong. But so like he said, she drops out of high school. And pretty much soon after that meets Poseidon. I feel like it was soon after that. It wasn't like a while in between. Because it was like part of that reason she never went to college is because she had Percy, I think. So she's definitely like 20, to be fair. I feel like probably 19, but I don't want to picture like 20 million-year-old Poseidon going after a teenager, even though I know that happens.
Yeah.
And then Percy's only 11, so she's like 30. But she's described like she's 50 in my opinion, because she's like kind of
like
wrinkled.
You
and, like,
told me
hair.
That,
yeah.
But then when I was reading it, the way that I read it didn't seem like she was being described as older. Just that she was like she has the gray hair because she's very like tired. Like she's gone through more than like somebody else her age would. And it's kind of described in that way of like, she had like some gray hair and like whatever. Like
it's just 30 with gray hair is very soon for the average. So that's why I was like, but I think you're right. And I also think it could have been partly like it's for middle schoolers. So it kind of has to be obvious this is a mom. You can't describe like Aunt May from the new Spider-Man movies and be like, yeah, that makes sense. So...
I'm sorry, that was really funny to me.
Thank you.
But yeah. Why did we do that? Anyways, Yes, so she's kind of described as like she has like some graying hair. Percy describes her as just like having a very kind like face as well.
Nice. So to explain our decorations while we're at it, she works at an American themed candy store in Grand Central Station, correct? I said station.
I believe so.
And one day Gabe said something about there's no such thing as blue food, and since that day, her husband Gabe, who's the devil,
Percy's stepdad.
So ever since then, she made all her food blue. / brings home all the blue candy from the store, and so it's Percy's comfort.
Yeah, it's like their special thing is having like blue food, and his favorite thing is the blue chocolate chip cookies that she makes. So we decided to have some as well. And not that we have her recipe, but I would say they're pretty good.
So yeah, stop saying so yeah. Basically, I would say the next big point is she takes him to Montauk.
Yeah, beach. They go on a trip because they like the beach.
She's kind of understanding that he's getting more dangerous too, I think, subtly.
Yeah.
So she takes him to the beach where he's comfortable. He loves the beach.
Yeah, so they've been going to like this cabin for like a few years, and they hadn't gone, I think he said, like they skipped a summer. And
I think he's been going since he was a baby though, because I think that was one of his like Poseidon.
Well, that's where she met.
Yeah.
So he's been going there like forever. And he said that they had like missed a summer. So it was very special that they were getting to go.
Yeah.
And he kind of like, his mom asks about like how school was, and she can tell that he's kind of like holding some stuff back.
Yeah.
Of, like what's going on. So that's also another reason, like you said, like she kind of knows that like what's coming, even though he doesn't. So what he's describing seems a little sketchy.
And she's shaken. But yeah, so they go to that cabin. In the middle of the night, they hear storming.
Yes.
And when Percy wakes up, someone's actually knocking on the door. And it's none other than Grover telling them they're in grave danger.
Yes.
And his mom's not surprised. She's like, all right, get in the car. Like, let's go. Turns out they're being chased by the Minotaur.
Yes.
In his undies. And that's one of those moments where you're like, oh yes, this is for an 11-year-old.
Yes. I will also say really quick before we go into the Minotaur, like right before they go to sleep at the beach is when Percy has like, his mom actually talks about his father for the first time, like to him, like in detail, about like how they met at the beach, and then like, you know, he went away and Percy was under the impression that he like died at sea. But she's kind of like giving him some new signals now about like his father. And so that's like, they go to bed and then all of this happens.
Yeah.
So.
He also, I wasn't going to get this into detail, but he also has a dream of like, it's like a eagle and a horse fighting on the beach.
Yes.
Which is symbolism. But anyway, so he has that dream. Their dreams are very important.
Yeah.
They're basically like visions. So yeah, so the Minotaur's chasing them. You see Grover's actually a satyr because he's not wearing his pants and shoes that hide his feet.
And I love, like, because it's in, like, the first person, like, Percy describing everything, I love, like, him describing, like, Grover for the first time, which is really funny. Just that he's like, oh, and, you know, where he's supposed to have feet, there's hooves. What the heck? Like, he's so shook by it, and he just, like, can't get over it for, like, a few sentences. It just does feel very much like how an 11-year-old would react to things.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. Basically, because we won't give a play-by-play, I guess, of the fight.
Yeah.
But basically, he has to confront the Minotaur. They fight, and this is like right outside the gates of camp, because that's where they were driving for safety, is camp.
Right. Percy doesn't know what this camp is yet, but Grover tells him like that's where he'll be safe.
And his mom understands where it is too, because she has known about it for a long time. She's just avoided having to let go of her son.
Yes.
Fair. I might sneeze at some point as a warning. I just felt my nose like
itch.
Yeah. So he fights the Minotaur. He wins, but in the last moment, before he wins, the Minotaur grabs his mom and she disappears. So he assumes
explodes into gold. Exactly, is like how he describes it.
So he assumes that means the Minotaur killed her. Then he gets his blind rage we discussed and just destroys the Minotaur.
Right.
Which is a big deal for any hero probably, but I mean, it's like the main story of like Theseus is that he fights the Minotaur, so obviously that's a big deal. And he does it as like an 11-year-old angry when he just woke up.
Yes.
So that kind of is like a start to like how strong he is. And then he passes out. Wakes up at this weird camp, a guy with a bajillion eyes staring at him, a girl telling him he drools in his sleep.
Yes, and he's being well, not fed, but
kind
through a
like,
straw.
Yeah, like liquid diet.
And he's drinking it, and it tastes like liquid chocolate chip cookies. The special ones his mom makes.
That sounds good, but I also am just like, that would hurt my stomach. But I know like the point of it is to not. But my mind's just like, if I drank actual liquid cookies, like I would.
No, that would be disgusting. I'd hate that.
But anyways, so that's how they heal.
Because ambrosia.
Yeah.
Which we find out later, which just, it tastes like the cookies to Percy because it tastes like
whatever you want it to taste like.
And so only demigods can drink it, otherwise it'll kill you.
Yeah, and gods can.
Right.
But so he comes to camp, which is our shirts. They're required, not they're required, but I feel like they are kind of. So this is like their uniform.
Yes, they get Camp Half-Blood t-shirts, which is what the camp is called, we learn.
They wear necklaces that show how many years they've been there because they get a bead per summer.
Pretty much like picture regular summer camp, but they have powers.
Yeah. And it's pretty, I love the setup, and I love that I saw someone online the other day talking about how they hate books with maps, and I was like, who are you?
I was just talking about how it's a good book when you open it and there's a map.
It said the opposite. She was like, I know I'm not gonna like the book when it has a map, and I was like, I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
I was that kid who loved going back to the map. Like whenever they mentioned a new location, I was like, oh, let's see where that is.
I did it the other day in the last Olympian because I was like, oh, here's where this fight happens.
Yeah,
they're very important. But in one of these, it shows the camp, and it's just like really cool to see because it has the U shape of all of the gods' homes, not their homes, their representation of their cabins. Their cabins, thank you. Just like how it would be on Mount Olympus with their thrones. The main gods, at least, not all of them, because that's also a point.
Yes.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. They have the rock climbing wall with lava that they somehow climb up in their jeans.
Yes.
Sorry, that's like an anger point for me. What would you call that? A moot point?
No.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
I wouldn't call it a moot point.
What does that mean? I forgot.
Well, I would just say that that's like something that you're very like passionate about.
I'm a little bit passionate about it, but it's fine.
But anyways, they have like a few different things. There's like archery, and then there's like sword fighting and all this other
all
stuff.
The kind of training you would need to be a hero.
Yes.
And that's when he discovers
Picture again Disney's Hercules when he's singing the Zero to Hero song.
But yeah, that's when he discovers his dad is a Greek god and the gods are real and blah blah blah, and he's not even shocked. I mean, he's shocked, but he's like, I'm thinking of the wrong character.
I said the wrong song. It was the Do You Want to Be a Hero song when he's training in Hercules, when Finn is singing.
So
which
you
is
want to
like,
be a hero, kid? Whoa. Whoop-de-doo.
That song.
Sorry.
Anyways, sorry, I had to correct myself. But yeah, so pretty much everything they need to train, be heroes.
Yeah, that song
Percy
makes a lot more sense.
Like, what's going on? Like, I've never seen a summer camp that has swords.
Yeah. So it's pretty intense because they're training for real life situations.
Yeah,
so
and here is where we're just like introduced to like some of the more main characters. He meets Annabeth, who was like the girl who was taking care of him.
Yeah.
When he was passed out. He describes her. She has blonde curly hair. At whoever made the movie, I will never forgive you.
I will never forgive you. I will never forgive you. Sorry.
So she has blonde curly hair. She's the same age as Percy. And so.
But she has more beads on her necklace.
Yes, he notices that she has like quite many beads on her necklace.
She has gray eyes, which it's hard for me to picture that. But.
So the way that he describes her is like she's typical, like what you would picture a California like beach surfery person, but the gray eyes were so different. Like I thought was kind of funny. I don't know why. Like the description was like, yeah, she was very typical of that, but the gray eyes were very not surfer California girl. Like that's the one thing that makes it like, no, that's not
People
what she
with
is.
gray eyes do not surf.
Right.
No, that's not what it means, but I mean, it is interesting. I try to picture that because I picture like gray, not like, oh, like my eyes are gray, and it's like, are they? They're green. It's like, no, they're gray.
Yeah, when people are like, well, my eyes are like greenish brown, sometimes with a hint of hazel.
Your eyes are brown. But yeah, that was so frustrating in the movie. It's like, it's a wig. Wear a wig. Like,
yes. We'll talk about that obviously.
And they switched it over in the second movie. I think they realized how angry everyone got, but I was like, it's too late.
Yeah. But yeah, so he meets Annabeth. And then he actually gets like kind of a tour from her, and then also his former Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, who is actually revealed to be Chiron.
Chiron said it different, but it's
and he's
Greek mythology is whatever we want to make it. So I'm gonna say Chiron. I'm gonna say Chiron.
So he's actually a centaur. So he actually. Oh, we never mentioned the teacher was in a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair. So Percy sees him, and then he like gets up out of his wheelchair, and he's like, wherever like the legs were supposed to be, they just kept going, and then he was a horse, which again was a hilarious description to me. Like the way I picture it is just like he just kept standing up and it was just going forever. But yeah, so he finds out that he's a centaur. He's kind of like in charge of things. And so
that's part of like actual Greek mythology is that he was the trainer of heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've ever read
Son like a fun
of Achilles or Song of Achilles, he's in that.
But yeah, so he meets Annabeth, he meets Chiron, he sees Grover again, and Grover and Annabeth know each other, and so he's like, okay, well, what's going on?
He meets
all of this
Luke.
seems really crazy. He meets Luke, who he realizes Annabeth has like some kind of feelings for. Mm-hmm. She's crushing very hard on Luke. He notices.
Not good at hiding it.
Yeah, and Luke is older. He's like 19.
Yeah.
While they're all like middle school.
Because they said you can, once you graduate high school, you can stay year round and be like a counselor. Mm-hmm. So he's the counselor for.
Yes. And he's been there as long as Annabeth has. Mm-hmm. But Annabeth was much younger when she arrived. Yeah. So he was a lot older. Yeah, so
that's a lot of main characters.
That's pretty much all the characters you need to know.
Yeah.
You want to maybe go on to the next?
Yeah, I'll try to skip some things that I like just to get to the important stuff. So basically, while there, you realize he's pretty powerful. People are trying to guess what he is. Again, it's a middle-aged book, so like it's supposed to be obvious, but it's like he controls water.
Every
again.
time you say middle age, I'm thinking like middle age.
Well, so it's called that, but like
I know, but like I just
middle
keep
grade.
Like
maybe it's middle grade.
Yeah. Like the
I'll say
having a midlife crisis or like Percy Jackson.
I mean, it will be me, but anyways.
Yeah.
He basically is shown to be pretty powerful. Annabeth's kind of picking up on that, so they do. I'll just say all this really fast. They do a capture the flag game. Mm-hmm. In that, he starts to fight really well when he steps into the water, and basically once he wins the battle, even though his team won the flag, but he personally didn't. He just won the fight against the camp's version of a bully for him. He is then announced by Poseidon kind of with like a symbol that he's the son of Poseidon, which is a big no-no.
Yes.
Because we find out the gods made a pact, the big three.
Yes, which is Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
Hades, the son of the main sons of like Kronos. Mm-hmm. You can tell I'm like insecure about certain words because I go like quiet. Trying not to do that. But the three of them had to make a pact not to have any more children because their children caused mayhem. Like they made it sound like their World War II was basically a civil war between their kids.
Yes, it was,
So that was a bad thing. And it caused a lot of issues because this is when we start to learn something is missing. And it belongs to Zeus. And it's the lightning bolt, aka the lightning thief.
Yes.
And Zeus thinks
somebody has been the thief.
Yeah, somebody stole the lightning bolt. And Zeus swears it must have been Poseidon's son.
Yes.
So Percy is tasked with a quest to go get the lightning bolt from who they think has it, which is Hades.
Yeah.
But Percy only cares about it because his mom is down there.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, yeah, Underworld, I'll go there. I have no ulterior motives. Yeah. And then I think even Grover kind of asked that. He's like, are you sure you don't want to go there because your mom? He's like, what? Me? Nah.
Yeah. So basically...
So they get tasked with the quest.
And he brings Annabeth and Grover.
Percy chooses to bring Annabeth and Grover with him. Mm-hmm. Grover is supposed to like prove that he can protect Percy, so then that way he can become a searcher for Pan, which is like a whole different thing. Yeah. But like all the satyrs kind of want to do that, so he has to protect Percy. And Percy's like, yeah, of course I'll bring you because you're my friend. So he brings Grover, he brings Annabeth because they're kind of becoming friends, and she wants to go on the quest. So.
Yeah. And she's smart.
Yes, she's the daughter of Athena. I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah, she's the daughter of Athena, like Marina said. Don't know why I had to also say it. So basically, he goes on a quest. There's a crap ton of things that happen to them, so we will try to.
Yeah, we're gonna go through the highlights.
I would say Medusa is the first highlight.
Yes, I think I highlighted Medusa, or I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they, after a bunch of other stuff happens,
they actually get attacked by the Furies on a bus. Mm-hmm. They escape the bus, but then there's like people think there's a bus explosion, and it's kind of explained in the beginning that sometimes when things happen to like demigods or gods, people see different things like humans. They'll just see it as like a natural disaster or like a regular bomb exploded or something. So on the news, Percy kind of becomes like a person like wanted, like a most wanted. Yes. A person of wanted. What am I saying? A person of interest, because his mom is also like missing. So then they're like, oh, he's a person of interest, like in her disappearance, and now you know there's a big explosion. And so after that, they escape. They do well. But the Medusa. Hungry. If you want to take it away.
Yeah, so they're hungry. They find this building that says it has food, but it's like a statue emporium. I can't even remember if in the book it's called an emporium now. I just blanked, but either way,
it's okay.
Mm-hmm. So they go in there. It's like not Madame M's,
something like that. I don't remember.
Auntie M's.
Off the top of my head. No, you're thinking of the pretzels. It's not important. It's an emporium.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're trying to speak, but not really.
So they get there. There's this lady helping them, talking to them, kind of like sweet talking, like soothing. Find out it is Medusa, who doesn't like Poseidon or Athena. For if you've heard her backstory, you would not like Poseidon or Athena either.
Yeah. Medusa was not the villain here.
Yeah, but
only we'll support Percy here and Annabeth.
I mean, she's trying to kill them. Fine, we'll support Percy.
Right.
But Medusa was not.
Medusa did nothing wrong.
So that's the story we believe in, and we're sticking to it because we're just being
a hoe. That's all.
Hoe. I will go with the story too that Athena wasn't being awful.
Yeah.
So I guess she only dislikes Poseidon. But anyways, basically she attacks them because she doesn't like them.
Yeah.
And that's her thing. She tries to turn them into a statue, which is why it's a statue emporium.
Yes.
But they defeat her because that's what they do when you're a strong demigod.
Yeah, well, Percy realizes he can like use a reflection to look at her.
Does he? I was gonna say, does he use a reflection in the book?
Yes, because you're just
in what? In the orb
in the movie.
But I knew that I thought it was wrong, so it's like, what does he really use? It's like a glass orb or like a metal orb, like that's
because it's a garden place. You know how
so
they have
those like water thingies.
Orbs that
so he's like looking at
so he's looking at that, and then he's able to kill her because he can look at a reflection just on her. And he cuts her head off.
I would like to point out I knew the phone wasn't in the book.
I know, but I knew you were thinking of it.
But so I was like, so what is the real thing?
But yes, it's a good, in the movie,
it is the one good thing
an iPod like touch, which is just very indicative of the time. But
I think that was the one like really good thing they did,
which is hilarious. Yeah. But anyways, so they defeat Medusa, and then he hightail out of there.
Yeah, he sends her head to Olympus as well as like a FU because he's really annoyed at them for putting him in this much distress.
Yes.
So a bunch of other things happen. Basically, they end up on a train. This doesn't matter to the plot, but I thought it was interesting. In the window, he sees the Nemean lion. Maybe I said that right. Maybe I said that wrong. Whatever. But this train takes him to St. Louis. With the big arch, and Annabeth has to go on this. St. Louis, thank you.
It's fine.
I was
thinking Louis.
That's why I looked at you, because I was not now.
It spelled the same, and I knew that's why you were thinking that. Anyways, guys,
it's not because of One
Louis with the arch.
So they go on the arch though because Annabeth is obsessed with architecture. That's her weird thing. So they go in it. They kind of know, like Grover and Percy are like, this is gonna be bad news, but they have time to waste. Turns out he's attacked by two other monsters, one monster being controlled by another monster, and he ends up to escape. He jumps out of the arch, which makes me sweat, like
describing it.
We do not like heights, so the idea of even being in the arch feels disgusting, and then to jump out of it into the water and hope you survive,
scary,
horrible. Go ahead.
And he kind of does that by himself because like Annabeth and Grover were on the elevator. Like they're like, okay, we'll come on the next one because it's very crowded. So then Percy was in there like with the monsters. But yeah, so he escapes by jumping out, and then he can like be healed by the water. Also.
And something interesting was like a water spirit was there to meet him. That's so kind of showing his dad is thinking of him because I'm pretty sure she sent him to be like, you know, giving him tips like don't trust the gifts, blah blah blah.
Yeah, so it's like a spirit that kind of gives him like a weird cryptic warning, like don't trust the gifts. And then he's like, the hell are you talking about?
And she's like, meet me again in the Pacific.
And I think she says something about his mom, question mark?
Possibly. I know she kind of says, like, your dad wants to help you.
Yeah, something cryptic like that. Percy doesn't get it yet. We know that she's a water spirit because we've read the rest of the book. But, yeah, so he doesn't get it. He's not sure what's going on. But he has that little nugget in his head now.
From
he reunites with Grover and Annabeth. Yes. He's on the news again because they're like, oh my god, there was like maybe a terrorist bombing and Percy Jackson was there. What the heck? Find this kid. Okay, yeah.
So they get back on the train, right? And they just take the train all the way to the end, which gets them to, it's not Vegas yet. It's like somewhere. Maybe that's Denver.
Yeah, when they get to Colorado.
So they get to Colorado. This is important a little bit, so we'll try to go through it quick, but it's important. They are in a diner in Colorado and somebody comes to talk to them.
Yes, and this someone happens to also be a god. Maybe not everybody's favorite god because he's the god of war. So they meet Ares.
He's the god of war.
I love the way he's described also in the book. Not to just keep talking about like, I love the way this is described. But it's really funny how he's described because it seems like what you would think of as like cool tough guy when you were like 11 years old. Yeah. Like when I was reading it, I was like, I wouldn't be scared of that man.
He had like fire in his eyes too. Like he doesn't have eyeballs, he has fire. Like that's, I feel like I didn't picture that fully, but now I'm like,
yeah, like he had sunglasses on so you couldn't see, but they got to see the fire in his eyes. Well,
literally.
But yeah, okay.
Not just figuratively. Basically, he says, if you do a task for me, I will help you get to the next stage. So they go help him with this task. They go to this water park. Turns out it's a trap set up by Hephaestus because his wife is cheating on him with Ares.
Yes.
Aphrodite, come
on. Even though they like, no. It's like a weird arrangement. Yeah. And he likes to just catch them and put them on display for everybody, which is kind of weird.
And Ares did not want to get caught in it, so he sent them instead. So they are basically embarrassed, which again, Percy's
they're broadcast to all of Mount Olympus, pretty much.
Which that was funny too, because you think of like ancient stuff, and then there's like TV.
Yeah, they're like, gotcha, you're on Punk'd.
Literally.
And then so they come back. Percy's like, it was a trap. You knew it was a trap. Like, give us our stuff, and we're gonna leave. And I hate you.
So he gives them like gifts of like a backpack, and a few other things. And basically, he points out their ride, and it's just a truck full of zoo animals going to Vegas. So they ride in that for a while. That's kind of like, I feel like that's a popular scene, even though it's not like important to the story. Yeah. But it's just like,
well, because it just shows like some of like the more like nuance of their characters. Like it shows like how much like, well, Grover obviously really cares about the animals and he can like talk to them. And Percy this is when he realizes that he can talk to horses.
That was funny.
Because
free, my lord.
Annabeth had told him like, oh yeah, like, you know, Poseidon and horses. Yeah. Like
that stuff always cracks me up. I love it.
And so Percy was like, whoa, can I understand the zebra too? Like that Grover's talking to? And he's like, well, I guess a zebra is a horse. And so then so that's
they call him my lord, and it's so funny.
And then so they get to Vegas, and they're really sad because these animals are all in cages and like treated terribly. And so they free the animals just into Vegas. They're like, there you go. And then there's like
have fun
lion and a zebra, which is like, okay, a lion I would be scared by.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, a zebra I might think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Even though it could probably just kick you and
right. I mean, so could a horse. And we rode those.
But we didn't walk behind them specifically for that reason.
Very scary.
I was like, walk around wide.
They're so big.
Why did we not make a single Percy Jackson joke while riding horses?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we were just like inhaling so much dust.
There was too much going on when we did that. Life was a mess.
Yes. So we recently went horseback riding. Yeah. Like a month ago. But yeah, so we had a fun experience then. So
basically they're in Vegas is the next big step.
Yeah. So they free the animals. Grover does a little like charm on them so that they can get to the wild safely and they won't be hurt by people. So they're in Vegas, and then this is when we meet the location of the Lotus Casino.
Like, we don't mean anyone.
When we see the Lotus Casino.
Yeah, which basically the Lotus Casino is kind of important also for other books. But it's basically a like trap where once you're in there, you feel like you've been there for a minute and it's been like years or like whatever, because there's so much stuff there to distract you too, like nonstop games, nonstop fun,
free food, free games, I would go there and never come out and be happy. That would be great. Anyways.
Yeah, so they're in there, literally for just like a few hours. Percy realizes, he gets them out, and it's been a couple days. Because that was one of their issues too, is like they were on a pretty good schedule. Now they're like a day away.
So they actually, we didn't talk about like their deadline or anything.
There's always some deadline.
But they have to get it before the summer solstice. And so they had a certain amount of days. And then by the time they're in the casino, they accidentally spent like 5 days in there.
Yeah.
So they actually had 1 day left.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh my god, panic. Let's go.
Oh, and they knew to go to LA too, I will say, just because like they knew the underworld was in the west, and then in Medusa's lair they found a card with kind of an address, kind of just like a location. Not the address, but the name of the store.
Yeah, I'm gonna say too, we didn't mention that the reason that they have to travel all crazy like this and they can't just like take a plane is because Zeus will kill them if they fly in a plane.
I don't think he'd kill other demigods. It's like specifically because Percy's there, because he's mad at did I say Percy? Sounded like I said something else.
No, you did say Percy. Yeah, so Percy's on the plane. Zeus is gonna shoot it down because he's mad at Poseidon. But yeah, so that's why they're doing all this crazy stuff.
I thought I said this.
But yeah, so after they leave the Lotus Casino, you want to?
Yeah, this isn't like that important, but the way they get from there to LA is they use their Lotus Casino like unlimited credit card, and a cab driver is so obsessed with the amount of money he's gonna get that they just take a quick ride to LA.
Yeah.
When they get there, this isn't like an important thing either, but I actually really like the scene while they're in LA where the mortal kids like piss Percy off. And he tries to cut them without thinking, and it just goes through them, and they're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, so, like, the weapons that they have to fight monsters and stuff, it can't hurt people.
Yeah. So. Celestial bronze.
Yes. Cannot hurt humans.
So, yeah. I feel like we're slightly following the movie's patterns.
What?
Because of Medusa and the Lotus Casino, but we're not.
Stop. Just keep going.
Marina's gonna kill me. We're not, and I'll explain what pisses me off about the movie. But anyways, then they go to Krusty's. If you want to try to say his real name.
It's like Procrustes? Something like that.
Basically, he sells beds. It's a monster, but he's currently selling beds. He wants everybody to be the right size for the beds, so he ties them down, except Percy, tries to chop them up to fit in the bed.
Stretch them out.
That's right. Some people get chopped if they're big.
If they're big, so I guess all you short kings, it's your day.
If you're exactly 6 foot, which Percy is eventually, but not right now, you're fine. So they have to defeat this guy. He gets cut his head off.
Yeah. Percy chops
his head off,
and they're all free.
Fun. They get freed. Yeah, that's when at this place it's important to know, because this is where they find the address to the underworld. So then they go there, which is like a place.
Yeah.
Not like a store, right? I know it's not, but like, is it a radio station technically, or? Okay, Marina's like,
music
I don't care.
Place.
It's music related. So they go there, it's a waiting room, blah, blah, blah. They get into the underworld because they happen to have a lot of gold coins that they stole from Krusty.
Right, because he
Krusty
stuff. Yeah.
So they took his money. The ferryman takes I was going to say bet, but that's not the word. The thing you can't do to police officers. Bribe, thank you. He takes the bribe to let them in anyways. I'm so glad you knew what I meant.
Yeah, that was a weird way to say bribe, but
I couldn't think of how else to word it. I just completely zoned. But so they're in the underworld, where they've been trying to go for a while. The whole point of their quest, because they need to confront Hades. And it's crazy down there. The river Styx.
It's brutal out here.
God.
But yeah, so lots happens in the underworld. But the main thing, sorry, my elbow just popped if you heard that in the mic. Anyways,
sorry.
Before they get to Hades, they meet Cerberus, which is very cute.
Our little baby, we love him.
Yeah, so Annabeth actually gets him to be an obedient dog.
Yeah, with a little red. I mean, it's not a little red ball.
With a red rubber ball. And so she's telling him oh, stay, don't go after Grover and Percy, and then they sneak past him. And then after she trains him for a hot second, she's okay, here you go, I'll be back.
And he's sad.
And then he's sad when she leaves.
I'm sad that they never had that interaction again.
I know, very sad. But anyways, so they get past, and this
they
is when
pretty much get straight to oh no, they don't.
No, they don't.
Something happens.
Yes.
So something we didn't let you guys know is before they left, Luke gave them gifts, like flying shoes, and was there something else, or was it just the flying shoes?
I think from Luke was the flying shoes.
Luke gave them the flying shoes, but Percy didn't really like them, so Grover was wearing them. And that's how they've been able to do certain things that they needed. Grover's been flying in them.
Right.
So all of a sudden, though, in the underworld, they start dragging him down this crazy, like, back way, like, cave cabin.
Yeah, and they're telling Grover, like, to tell the shoes to stop, because there's, like, different words they're supposed to say, and then nothing is, like, happening. They're not responsive anymore. They're dragging him somewhere where Grover doesn't know.
Yeah. Also, something we haven't been saying, which isn't too important for this book, but is for the entire series, is Percy has a lot of dreams of, like, some
visions
voice,
of what's gonna happen,
like, whispering to him from this black pit that feels just disgustingly evil. Yeah. So anyways, Grover was being dragged somewhere, and it turns out when they get through, after a while of being dragged, it's this big pit, the place he's been dreaming of. So they all freak out. They know if he goes down there, it's done. So it's a big battle to get his shoes off. They do, but they quickly realize that is the entrance to Tartarus.
Yes.
So
which is where, well, we know, but is also explained that is where, like, all the monsters go, like, when they're, you know, when they're dead, when they explode, and when they reform. So
and Tartarus is a different type of, like, being god. He's like the father, grandfather, a bunch of other.
So they escape this, and then this is when they get to go meet Hades.
Yeah. So now they meet Hades, which is a big. I would say this is, like, maybe the climax of the book, possibly.
Yeah, I would say, this is, like, the climax.
Maybe the next thing is the climax of the book. That happens after Hades.
No, I would say this is the climax.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here they confront Hades, and he asks, you know, where's my stuff? And this is where it comes back to Mrs. Dodds not asking for the lightning bolt, but, like, just saying, where is it? Because it turns out his helm of darkness has been missing.
Yes.
Ooh, that no one knew that, because he didn't want people to think he was weak.
Right.
Which they would have. Not like he is weak, but, like, that is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
So he asks for that. He says, you're the thief, blah, blah, blah. And Percy's so confused. And his backpack got super heavy as they walked in. And Hades is like, I literally can feel the stuff in here, right?
Yeah.
And so Percy opens his backpack, and voila, the lightning bolt's been there the entire time.
Yeah, and he's like, what the? And the
helm.
Weird thing about the backpack
is not.
Is that Percy had tried to throw it away previously when they were in the casino, but it magically reappeared. And he was like, that's weird, but the casino was weird, so he didn't question it.
Yeah, which is one of those middle grade moments where you're like, come on, Percy. But it's also kind of that thing where the narrator isn't as intelligent as you are, so you're supposed to pick up on it. It's just more obvious because it's a middle grade book. So yeah, basically he has all that stuff. He has the helm, right? I'm not blanking. Okay, he has the helm. He gives it back to Hades. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of, like, something else. He gives it back to Hades. They run away, and he sees his mother. Yeah. So Hades has his mom kind of just there because he knows that Percy's coming. Yeah. So he knows Percy's coming. His mom is, like, hovering there. They escape using also something that we didn't discuss that they had. Some of the tools that they had. These pearls that can, like, transport them. So they throw those on the ground real quick, but Percy realizes, obviously, he only has enough for, like, him, Grover, and Annabeth, and not for his mother. So he promises his mom, I'll come back, and then they disappear out of the underworld. That's why I'm feeling like the helm wasn't there. I'm trying to remember if it was somewhere else. Like, he gets it when he fights Ares. Oh, he does get it when he fights Ares. That's why I've been sitting here. So he only has the lightning bolt. Yeah. So they go up. This is when we find out that the helm has been stolen. Yes. And then Hades is like, why would I steal the lightning bolt when you, like, stole my helm? Yeah. And then Percy is like, wait, I know who has it. So he actually tells both Hades and his mom, I'll be right back. I'll get your helm. Yeah. Mom, I'll see you later. And then they disappear. Then this scene's super important for the rest of the series, kind of. Yeah. And the book, too, but it's a good scene. Ares is there in the ocean when they pop up, like, on the shore. And it's basically come to fruition that it was Ares who was doing most of this. He was well, he wasn't doing most of this, but we'll see. He's the god involved because he likes war, so he would love if there was a civil war between all of the three gods, basically.
Yeah, the big three, yeah.
So Percy has a big fight with Ares, which again just like shows how strong he is as a like naturally, because he's fighting a literal war god and he's not doing too bad. He actually nicks him, which is a big deal. He starts bleeding gold as gods do. And in that moment, Ares is like, that's it, I'm finishing it. And this part, I actually like this part. Everything freezes in time and slows down. And you can say it if you want, but he hears the voice from his dreams in real life telling Ares to stop. And in better wording than I just said, but he tells him to stop and that this isn't like the time. So basically Ares has to flee, and that's when they get the helm from Ares.
Yes. And
he just like throws it back into the ocean and it sinks down. So very obvious that Hades got it back.
Yes.
So we find out Ares was doing it, but there's something else controlling Ares.
Yes.
Ooh, spooky.
Okay, so this is when I'm trying to go through my notes after this. He fights Ares, and then
basically at this point they can fly because they think Zeus.
Oh, right. So what happens is that like they need to go to Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus is in New York, which is why Camp Half-Blood is in New York. Olympus is actually over the Empire State Building, and you're supposed to take the elevator all the way up to Olympus.
Like the 600th floor.
Yes. So, like we said, they are in California because they had to travel all the way there.
And it took them like 10 days to
Percy,
get there.
Being the big brain he is now, he's like, you know what? I think Zeus knows what's up because of the helm
He watched
thing.
the fight.
He knows what's going on with Hades. Hades is keeping Zeus in the loop now.
Yeah.
So I think we can fly. And he's not going to kill me because I have his lightning bolt.
Yeah. And he's been watching them the whole time. So like he saw Ares admit to it.
Yeah.
Even if he
so
doesn't want to
then
it.
Percy's like, guys, we can get a plane. And so they're like, what? Are you sure?
Yeah.
And then they get on a plane.
So they fly to New York. They go back to the Grover and Annabeth. They go back to Camp Half-Blood. They're kind of not needed at this point. He goes all the way up to Mount Olympus, where he finds Zeus and Poseidon sitting in the throne room in Zeus's like mansion.
Yes.
Kind of bickering. I love this moment personally. It's like just because you see those gods for the first time.
Yeah.
They're described kind of interesting. Zeus is probably how you would picture Zeus, but like modern. Poseidon's a fisherman, which is hilarious to me. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting scene. He returns the bolt. He explains what happened. Zeus is kind of hard-headed but understands. Yeah. And it's interesting.
This is the first time Percy gets to see his father.
Yes,
ever.
which is pretty a big deal.
Yes.
And I think that was something I always find interesting is that he greets his dad first, and Zeus is like, "That's not how it works." And in this moment too, this is when they finally Percy knows now what the voice is. And he tries to tell him, hey, I think Kronos is coming back.
Yes.
We need to worry about it. And Zeus is like, preposterous.
That could never happen. I don't know why I made him sound like that.
Because I honestly, probably because I made it kind of British, because I was thinking of in Harry Potter when they don't believe Voldemort's coming back. And then I think of the scene where they're like, he's back. In like the Ministry of Magic.
Oh my god.
But anyways, so that's basically like, that gets wrapped up. He understands Poseidon wasn't trying to sabotage him.
Yeah,
and then
Poseidon kind of says like, yeah, I'm like proud of you, son. Good job.
Although he goes, you were a mistake.
Yeah. Rip.
And Percy's just like, all right, bye, because that's.
I know, and it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure Percy figured that out by now, since they said the big three weren't supposed to have kids. So like,
yeah, you don't have to tell your son he's a mistake.
Rip.
So basically, all is well, and that's the end of the book.
Or you thought,
because it's a series, so we need a cliffhanger.
Right, we need a cliffhanger.
He goes through the rest of the summer like normal. He gets to, because that was the beginning of this summer, so that was probably like the first 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, so he does get to have like a pretty fun summer Camp Half-Blood besides that quest.
So the very last day, he goes to see Luke. Well, he goes to fight he goes to train by himself in the sword arena, and Luke's in there, and they decide, let's go for a walk.
Yeah, and he's like, yay, I haven't seen Luke like since I got back from the quest. I thought he was like mad at me for some reason. That's weird. And so...
And he has a new sword, which this is also a sign that something bad's happening. Yeah. Because it's celestial bronze and... Sorry, I was interrupting you, so go ahead.
It's okay. The other side is regular sword iron.
Sword iron.
Sword iron. So it can hurt humans,
can hurt
and
anybody.
Demigods,
which is like a big no-no for them because they're not supposed to hurt like regular people.
Yeah, one of their like kind of unspoken rules, but yeah.
So it's a bad thing. But Percy again is just like, oh, whatever, and it's like, no, Percy, don't think, oh, whatever. So they go for a walk in the woods, and it's revealed that Luke hates the gods. While a lot of the demigods kind of have issues with their parents.
Right, they have parental issues, which like understandable.
Yeah. Luke genuinely hates them to the point of, and it was his quest that actually did it to him. So I'll just say it quick. Like, he went on a quest to get the golden apple. He was attacked by a dragon, and he was not happy about that quest. Just the reason he got it was for just show. He was very unhappy, and it kind of, from there, Kronos was able to whisper in his ear how to like get back at his dad and all the gods. So he is now working for Kronos, and he's the one who stole the lightning bolt. He is the lightning thief. He stole the helm.
The titular lightning thief.
Yeah. Ares actually found him and would have given him up, but Kronos kind of tricked Ares too. That's where he comes in.
So they were kind of working together.
Yeah. So basically, Luke is gonna be bad for a while, and he escapes Camp Half-Blood, but not before trying to poison Percy.
Yep.
So he gets stung by a scorpion that is deadly.
Yes. So then again, we get him waking up with some ambrosia. Some liquid cookies again.
So basically, a few things happen there. He decides to go home, yada, yada, yada. Annabeth goes to her family.
So they both go home to their families for the school year, and they're going to come back next summer.
Yeah, but basically that's the cliffhanger for the next book and the entire series. So that's Percy Jackson, word for word. We just told you the whole thing. Don't read it now. Just kidding, read it. So now we can talk about our most favorite moment.
Yes.
You can go first.
Okay, I was gonna say moments that I like is probably like the Medusa part. I think that's a great like use of like a myth that everybody's familiar with. Like, even if you don't really know the story of Medusa, you know she's the lady with the snakes on her head. You know, she turns people to stone. So I think like that's a really good use of like having that be one of their first encounters, because then like kids can be like, oh, I know what that is, and it's like draws them in.
That's very true.
So I thought that was like smart. I think that part is pretty funny, especially because for so long Percy's like, but she's a nice lady giving us hamburgers, and then like that is something that like a kid would think.
I mean, what you said is pretty true, because I feel like after this book, a lot of the monsters get more and more obscure, and you're like, what's happening? Yeah,
and unless you have like an interest in continuing reading that, then you know, you're not going to connect with it there.
Yeah, so that's a good scene.
Yeah.
I wrote a few, so I'll just try to be quick.
I have another one, so you go and I'll go another.
Okay. I love when he explodes the bathroom. We didn't talk about that, but like when he's fighting Clarice, the bully from the Ares cabin.
Yeah,
and
Ares'
he makes
daughter.
all of the like toilets and sinks explode onto them. I just found that hilarious.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite scenes.
My other favorite scene is like the very end of the book. Annabeth like leaves camp like right before like Percy is leaving camp, and there's just a line about him like that's when he feels truly alone, and that kind of is going to go into our next talking points of what I liked. But I don't know, like it's just a very like the way that's written is very nice. Like
it's good foreshadowing of how much he likes Annabeth too.
And it's just like in the beginning when he's talking about, you know, not having any friends. And he only has like Grover, like he's only had his mom in the past. And so like he's always been alone, but like now, like when she left, feels truly alone.
Yeah. I just kind of put there silly Cerberus, but I love him. But I think
Cerberus,
I think a bigger thing is I love when you finally get to meet Poseidon, and when Percy gets to meet Poseidon, because it's kind of like for 11 years he's been like, where's my dad?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a big moment. I also love when Ares has to stop because of Kronos, because it's like, oh shit, that's definitely gonna be an issue in the future. Yours sounded so much sweeter, and I'm like, I love this fight. But anyways.
Okay, So if we just go into like
our normal,
maybe like symbols or themes from the book.
So the thing about this book, I feel like the past couple, all the books we do, we try to like deep dive into like, okay, so what's some hidden stuff? This book doesn't really have hidden stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it's so hidden we don't know. You can tell us. But it's obvious, like heroism, being the good person,
basic hero's journey.
Yeah, that's what I wrote here. It's literally set up like the perfect hero's journey. Like I took the,
which of course it has to be.
It has to be, but it's just like it's the perfect like. That's why it's good for teaching middle school because it follows so many strict rules. Like it follows every step a hero's journey is supposed to do. So like a teacher could teach this and be like, okay, so here's this. Like I literally wrote, it begins by the world changing. Okay, well he goes from mortal to Greek. He encounters a lot of danger. We literally just talk about those dangers for like an hour.
Right.
And then he's given perspective on life, which Marina kind of just talked about with the being alone, and he just gets to meet his dad and gets perspective on things. So it's like perfectly follows a hero's journey. But otherwise, the motifs are like there's water.
Yeah.
There's water in the book.
Which like that's gonna be the thing with like middle school level books. Yeah. Which is
like the Giver had some more, but the Giver was kind of like
it was still very obvious.
Yeah, it was obvious.
Like that's the only other like middle school
you hate it so
middle school book that we've covered so far.
Which is interesting. I will always go back to this fact. Books are rated their age by the age of the hero. So like this book could have been really dark, but it'd still be considered a middle grade book because Percy's 11, which I think is stupid, but
I don't think that's always the case though.
That's what I was taught in one of my English education classes. He was like, yeah, young adult novels are young adult novels because the character is a teenager, and middle age is because they're middle school.
Interesting.
And young adults because they're like new adult is like college. So it's because that's why you can read like Twilight. I guess we read that in middle school, but like there's certain books and themes where you're like that's dark for this age, but like the characters. So this one's not.
Yeah.
Unless you don't want your kid reading about like monsters getting killed, but I think you're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not too much symbols and themes, but I always like to pay attention to how Rick writes. I put here, and you're gonna want to throw up, but he writes in medias res. Yep. Every he has like a formula. Like I mean, most do, but I can like feel it every time I read.
Yeah.
Like the first sentence of every paragraph is a pull-in, which you're supposed to do in writing, like to grab your attention, but it's always in the middle of the fight.
Right, which is what we were talking about with the record scratch, like that's me.
Basically every single chapter of all of these books starts with it starts with like a record. Min medias res means you're starting in the middle of action.
Right.
And it's always like that. So it starts in the middle of an action. Like I'm thinking of one of these books, he's like, I didn't think today I'd be fighting a cow, but here I am.
Yeah.
And that's Frank, but that's not a character we're talking about now. But then it goes back like a day and leads up to why he was fighting a cow, and that's this book. It's like, oh, Medusa is attacking me, but wait, let me blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So that's how Rick always writes it, and that's I think because it gets young people's attention very well.
For sure, like, that's definitely like really prevalent in like young adult books.
Because you got to keep their attention. They won't do the thing we can do where you read like the first line of Frankenstein and it's just some like philosophical like comment, and you're like, all right, I guess I got to get through this.
Right.
Which is still good, but like middle school, I don't think that.
Yeah.
Also, this is not on Rick. I would like to point out this is on editing. Disney, don't come at me. But there are so many little errors in these books. And Marina
at least
knows,
these first copies, like this first publishing.
in the first editions, but like of all of these, I will say, like I think the is said back to back. It says like the Minotaur or something like that, and it's like no. In one, like I think the third book, he says he instead of him, and I'm just like, Disney,
you have money for this.
You have money, and I'm not blaming any one individual because like that it's hard to read an entire book and not notice things, but it's just like, come on.
Right. You would think it goes through like multiple people.
Yeah. Which is actually this is like a fun fact, on the back of Son of Poseidon, wherever we have that book laying around.
Yeah.
It has a typo on the dust jacket, which is like a kind of a cool thing though, because now people can like quickly identify if they have a first edition.
Yeah. Which
so at this point, it's almost like, is it being included? And it's like, find the typo.
I know.
But we love it. So.
But yeah,
Marina's probably tired of me because I'll text her like, I found one, and I like send her a screenshot to confirm it's not my brain.
I feel like happens multiple times.
It does. Because one time too, it happened. So like, if the watchers can see, it happened like at the end of this page, and then at the top of this page. So it's like you don't think about it, or like it just doesn't, it's not as glaring in your face.
But yeah, so we have some of that, which is sad. But I was gonna say, like, themes that I was wanting to discuss was kind of just like the idea of like found family and like belonging, like where you feel like you belong. Like the whole beginning is Percy talking about how he doesn't fit in like at school. You know, the whole thing of like now he knows where he's supposed to be. He's with other half-bloods. And even though like he has his mom, he's never had like a family or friends. So like, you know, like the camp becomes his home, and like Chiron is even almost like a parental figure, like like a parental figure more than Poseidon.
100%.
And then like Grover and Annabeth like become very important to him. So I think I like that, especially in young adult novels, because like that is a time where I don't know if you have issues like with your own family, like it teaches you that family isn't just by blood. Especially with the whole idea of like, I don't know, like the gods, and a lot of them, like we were talking about earlier, have issues with their parents because the gods aren't there and they're not really a parental figure like at all to them.
And it kind of shows both sides of that too, because like Luke, while he's the villain and Percy's mad at him, there is always, this isn't really in this book, but throughout the other books, you always have Annabeth being there, but like, no, but he's still good. And I'm not gonna give anything away, so I'll just stop at that. But so even though we see like two different kids' reactions, like Percy, who's just like, he tries to stay on the good path, Luke goes down the bad path, it's still shown like it's not really your fault, right? It's not like your issue, so don't like, and like that there's different reactions to like abandonment, and they're both normal reactions. Obviously, in this, you wish you wouldn't do the bad one, but it's not on you. Someone obviously hurt you to do that.
But yeah, so I think that that's like a good, strong theme, especially throughout like all of the books. And you know, as they meet different characters, and like how the other characters react to the same situation, because they can all like relate to each other with that fact. So I think that that's good. It's really important for like young kids to see. The only other thing that I kind of had was like just piggybacking off of that idea. Is just like the idea of like identity and like who you are, which again is another thing that you go through at this age specifically. Like, who am I? What do I like? Like, what does it mean to be me?
It's written very well for this age group.
I think that Percy does get to figure that out. And again, that has to do like with his family, but also just like himself. Like he's never had to reflect in the way that he does once he finally gets to Camp Half-Blood. And I think that at the end, he kind of does have like a sense of self and like who he is and who he's becoming.
I would say too, this is again going into some of the other books, but Percy sometimes struggles with, he likes that he's strong, even though he won't outright say it. He kind of likes that he's the protector. So when he has to face other demigods who might be as strong as him or stronger, he has to realize he has to take the back seat. That's something I wrote too that I like. With his mom, he was able to learn and grow enough that he let his mom have the final say in her life, and dealing with her husband, Gabe. Instead of Percy just like destroying him, he said, no, I'll let you deal with it. You're strong enough. So that was kind of a big growth too in his identity and as a person and growing up.
And so I guess we want to just go right into like media and cultural impact.
We can, but I did have one more thing I was going to say about this. Something else that Riordan does a lot is it goes into like, I think the symbolism that's obvious is on purpose, because I think it's teaching middle schoolers how to interpret books. So like whenever there's foreshadowing, I think I wrote an example was like, I took one last look at my cabin, and it could have stopped there. And if you're older, you know, okay, this probably means like something bad's gonna happen. He's not gonna see his cabin for a while. But then in this book, the very next second sentence is, I have a feeling I'm not gonna see my cabin for a while, ... And it's like, okay. So he kind of shows them like, here's symbolism and here's the proof that it's symbolism is how I see it. And foreshadowing. And he does that through every book. Like, he sees his horse and he goes, oh, I feel like I'm not going to see my horse for a while. And it's like, well, now you're not. But again, like when you're reading it as an adult, like if you just read it for the first time as an adult, you'd be like, oh, this is silly. But it works.
Star Wars, I have a bad feeling about this.
But it works really well for middle grade. I'll fix my wording for you. Because they don't know. So you got to help and you got to teach.
Yeah.
So he's very good at teaching.
Right.
Not a surprise. So that was my one thing, is even though those things feel straightforward, I think it's straightforward on purpose.
Yeah, I think so too.
So culture.
Okay, so we'll briefly touch on the 2 terrible movies that came out
that
with
we
the
saw in
names
theaters
from these books. We saw them together, actually. The first one came out in 2010, the second one in 2013. The main issues is like Percy is much older in the first movie. He's like 16 because he was played by Logan Lerman, who was also much older than like Percy should have been. He was a great like idea of a person.
If he was
Percy like
book.
Aged up.
Maybe in the last
Which
book,
is like
the Lost
what
Heroes.
they kind of tried to do, but the idea of the series doesn't work if he's already like 16 years old.
Honestly, if that was the only thing they messed up, I'd be okay with it.
Right.
Because you could have just aged up everything.
Yeah.
But
it's not.
It's not.
It's a disaster.
Not. And apparently in the shows coming up, they're really trying to have like an 11-year-old play the character. So here's hoping.
But yeah, so if we just go touch on a few other things that really grind our gears in the movie.
In all caps, Marina's got Annabeth's hair.
Yes. I already said this earlier. I'll just never forgive them for Annabeth's hair. No. Like, I can't forgive anybody who's paying millions of dollars to make a movie adaptation of a novel and you don't get what the character looks like correct when it's like stated
that extreme
perfectly.
Too.
Like,
also they have so much CGI.
You're allowed to have them look different, but something like for Annabeth, one of her main like identifying features is the fact that she has big blonde curly hair.
Especially too because that's from her mom. Because they point out every single kid of Athena has that hair.
Yes.
Every kid of Athena has big blonde curly hair and gray eyes.
Yes.
And
but
none of them have
instead
that.
In the movie, she has very long, straight, pin straight brown hair. And I don't know, as a person with curly hair, I found that offensive.
Yeah. I find this is not an important fact, but like even like Chiron is supposed to be a white stallion and he's brown.
Yes,
so
like there's just a lot of details
like
that didn't need to be changed, that were changed for no reason like, other than like carelessness.
Grover is cool and sophisticated. And
right, when he's supposed to be like a nerd. He's supposed to be a doofus.
He's supposed to be a doofus. He's supposed to be really skittish. He kind of grows into being more confident, but even then he's a very skittish, scared
But in the
character.
movies, they make him like suave.
Yeah, suave for sure.
Yeah, and then the plot is like completely different as well. Like instead of being based around like finding the bolt, they're like find these pearls.
Yeah.
Even though like that's just a tool that they use in the book.
The pearls they just happen to get at the last minute, where it's literally like there's a pearl hidden in Medusa's lair. And
right, so they have to go to all these places.
What I don't get too is why they could have kept the St. Louis arch and instead St. Louis. I did the thing that I told you that I do, where if I know there's 2 examples, I accidentally always pick the wrong one. So my mind went, Louis is wrong.
Yeah.
So the St. Louis arch they took out, but then they added like they went to the Parthenon in Tennessee and fought a different monster. So it was just like, why?
Yeah. So it just pretty much goes completely off the book for no reason at all. The second movie is pretty similar in that it doesn't follow it. They mess up the first movie so bad. I don't know why they ordered a second movie after the first one. I guess because maybe it did well financially. But
they wrapped that shit up though.
They did. They were like, there's no more of this. Rick like famously hates the movies as well. He knows that they were a bad adaptation. I'm not sure if it was like he read the screenplay and then realized it was going to be terrible, but like he knows that they're not a faithful adaptation.
He was not given any say.
Yeah.
Which he wrote on his website, the common thing, but I really hate when movies do that. It's like, if you're basing off a novel, and the people in charge tend to not be the people who are like fans. So it's like, please have someone in there who's an expert.
Yes.
Which it could be said about many things movies do.
And so they're being made now into a Disney Plus series, which I think a series will be way better than movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I think now with TV, they've realized that you can do like amazing things with television and like series, and they can be just as good or even better.
Like 1 book per season probably is how it's gonna go.
Yeah. So I think
Rick has more say.
He does. He like he's even talking about like casting. And he mentioned like a few months back, I think, that they started casting.
Yeah.
So they are actually using like age appropriate for the books people,
trying
kids.
to stick to it more. Disney seems like they've been doing pretty good too.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that they'll do a pretty good job, especially if Rick is like on board.
Honestly, I think anything better than the movies, people will be like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Ironically though, the casting was fine. Like, Percy was a fine casting. Annabeth would have been fine if she had blonde hair. Grover's casting was fine. He just acted too suave. Like, all of the like, Sally was honestly a good Sally. It's just like the plot
was awful. There wasn't a lot that they could work with, and it was, I don't know, the whole movie feels rushed and bad. So
rushed and bad.
If you've never seen it, don't see it, don't bother. You can look at pictures of Logan Lerman without subjecting yourself to that movie.
The second one is worse.
Yeah.
Like, they just
yeah.
I was gonna talk about it, but then I was like, no, because it might ruin the whole series, but
yeah, it's trash. Don't worry about it.
Luke's a good casting too, that's what I was thinking.
Oh yeah.
Kind of age appropriate too. But
if we're gonna just go into another thing that it's inspired in media, there is a musical that is called like The Lightning Thief as well.
We've been listening to the music.
We did listen to the music while we were getting ready for the podcast today. It started like in an off-Broadway production in 2014, and it did like it ran off-Broadway for a while. And then in 2017, I read that they like added to the script and they expanded it, which is what I think we were seeing. Like there's some bonus tracks if you go listen to it on Spotify. So I think maybe those were like added later. So in 2017. So then they went on like a national tour, and then they had like a limited run on Broadway for like, I think 16 weeks. And this was like pretty recently. It ended in January of 2020.
Just reading your notes. Be positive reviews off Broadway, not on Snobs TBH.
Yeah, so we got like really great reviews when people reviewed it off of Broadway. On its limited Broadway run, it got like not super great reviews. It got like mixed reviews, and people were like, "Oh, it's like so like out there." Which, I mean, I haven't seen the musical, so I can't completely comment.
It's probably
but there's crazy ass musicals out there. Like, I don't think that this is the one that probably should have got like negative reviews.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you've ever read like any reviews for Broadway, I would just recommend reading like the Spider-Man reviews of like when there was a Spider-Man show a few years ago.
Like flying.
That is
I
pretty
remember
funny.
Those reviews being
bad, scathing even. So I don't know. I guess I'm not sure if it translates well. I think Rick has said he likes the musical.
Yeah, he didn't watch it.
I think he probably read the script or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's an adaptation that people find, even though it's like different, it's more faithful to like the idea of the story.
The music sounded more faithful when we were listening to it.
Yeah, even just the songs. So it's pretty cool. If you want to check out the music, it's all on Spotify. I'll probably listen to them a few more times, honestly.
I will say something. Stanley Tucci as Mr. D. I don't hate it.
Oh, we didn't even talk about him at all, though.
Yeah.
In this podcast.
Mr. D is like, it's Dionysus, but he's forced to be the camp leader.
Yeah, the guy who like runs the camp. But he doesn't do anything.
It's not really a good casting, but I love the actor too much to be
I was going to say, that's actually a pretty bad casting.
No, it's a terrible casting.
No, but it's a fun casting
as well. Fun casting.
I didn't even remember. Jeez.
I remember because sometimes when I'm bored, I watch it. And then I'm like, this is bad. And then I keep watching. I did that with Twilight too, though. I'm like, these movies suck. And then I just stare at it.
But they suck in like a nostalgic
Twilight
way.
sucks better. Twilight is better. Percy Jackson overall sucks, but it's the only media I can consume.
Right. And
it's
so
like
we
if
get
I should just do audiobooks, but it's like if I'm not in the mood to read it, I'm like, I guess I'll watch the movie.
Yeah.
And just be upset.
Okay, and then, so I guess that's pretty much it for like media.
Yeah.
That's not books.
I think that's it, honestly.
Yeah, I think that kind of is wrapping us up.
We really wanted to tell you about this middle school book we were like, this book is a lot of plot, and it's less plot than most, but we're gonna talk our asses off because we love it so much.
And there's not stuff for us to really like super dissect.
I thought you said some good stuff though with the
thank you. Doesn't know what I said.
Like growing in oh, your found family.
Oh yeah, and just like looking at it through like the lens of like it is a book for like kids in middle school age.
You have to keep that in mind.
And when you look at it that way, you can see like some of those themes and like why it's so important for kids to read. It's just very important. And like, I don't know, these are themes that like when I was like a young kid reading, they were like super important to me.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel like you belong places.
Yeah.
That's very sweet. But yeah.
So I think that's it. There's a bunch more I could say. I could probably do hours on each book too. Like my mind's like, talk about this. I'm like, no, it's
maybe
the
if
series.
we do a Patreon eventually, we'll get some extra.
You'll just have me talking by myself in a room like, so anyways, this happens.
Yes.
On page 12.
Yeah, so
that's
I
Percy
guess
Jackson.
That wraps it up.
The Lightning Thief.
Yes, that wraps up The Lightning Thief, the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Rick Riordan. It's one of our favorites. I encourage you to go read it if you never read it as a kid. Yeah. It's a super quick, easy read. If you have any like younger kids in your life, definitely introduce them to this. I'm sure they'll love it, and maybe you'll make them into a reader.
And the other books that he's supporting.
Yes, go check out all of those books. They're all under the, what was it called again? So people could look it up. It's called Rick Riordan Presents. So
yeah,
any book that has that on it, go check it out.
Check it out. They're probably all together in the bookstore, honestly.
I think they are.
So, what do we have next month?
Okay, so next time we're entering a very special place. Maybe you know it as the Shire. We're going to be talking about The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Can't talk at the end of our podcast.
I have to tell you, Percy Jackson, or The Lightning Thief, and The Hobbit are probably like my top 2 books. So
yes,
the fact that we're
doing
them
The Hobbit
back to
is
back,
fantastic.
Fantastic. I feel like I have a bias, like I love Lord of the Rings, but for some reason I love The Hobbit. I don't know what it is, so I'm really excited.
Yes, and we're finally going to be featuring another guest on our show. So that'll be exciting as well. So that's the book we're reading, so make sure you like get your copy, take some notes.
It's an easy read.
Audiobooks, fantastic resource. Please listen to them.
The audiobook for that one's probably good. It's probably got some guy with a British accent.
Go to your local library, get them to set you up with a library card. You can access 1 million audiobooks with your library for free.
I've done like 20 finger guns this
and so again, we did take a break. We didn't really talk about this in the beginning of the show.
We went to camp
We went to camp for the summer. We had some crazy scheduling, some issues with uploads,
COVID.
Yeah, so you know the world is crazy. But we're here, and now we're gonna keep going back to our like pretty much monthly schedule.
Yeah.
For September is going to be Hobbit.
Yeah.
And then October is spooky season, and also
look out for something spooky.
Our first anniversary of the podcast, so that'll be a really special one for
I thought
October.
That was crazy.
So just like keep your eyes on all of our social media, which on Instagram is Summer Reading List Pod. Summer Reading List Pod. On our Instagram, on our Twitter, we are just Summer List Pod. On Facebook, you can just find us under our name if you just search Summer Reading List Podcast. And TikTok, we are also Summer Reading List Pod. You can find all of those links like in our description box on YouTube or in the description on your podcast player.
Yeah. And we will be making more TikToks for sure.
Yes. That's going to be a fun like little outlet for us, I think.
We have like a bunch of ideas written down.
Yes.
Just gotta do
it. And then, so we did have a giveaway announced quite a bit ago before we went on our little summer break. So we want to announce the winner here, and our winner is Gabby Bacco.
Gabby!
So thank you for entering our contest. She is a friend of the show, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
If you want to keep an eye out for our next giveaways, we'd love to have like some more entries so it can be like really spicy, you know. Not know who's gonna win.
Yeah, we had like half like entries too. But...
Yeah, so we'll be like a little more clear probably in some of those details next time. But check out our YouTube as well. If you just search Summer Reading List Podcast, we're on there. We're pretty much on every single podcast player. You know, it's up to us everywhere. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for us.
Maybe we'll give you a shout out even outside of giveaways.
We'd love to do more. If you give us a review on iTunes, we'd love that. We'd love to read more of those like we've done in the past.
And I would love opinions. Like if people tell us like
literally anything. If you DM us on any of those social medias that we're giving you, that would be great. Yeah. Okay, so thanks guys. We love you. Thanks for listening. And we're gonna catch you here next time.
All right. At the Shire. Bye.